Richmond Community Schools School Board meeting of November 20th to order. Please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have the reading of the mission statement, please?
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you very much. And the vision statement.
Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
All right, thank you both. We'll move on to celebrations. Dr. Wright?
President Stoll's trustees, I'm going to ask that our communications and marketing coordinator, Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, join us to acknowledge who we have in the crowd and be honored.
You may feel the chill in the air, so winter is almost upon us. And that means that we're going to be celebrating our holiday cards that are coming out. So this year we had the students, RCS students in 5th through 8th grade compete to do our artwork for our Christmas cards. So we're going to have our 3 winners that had the top 3 votes come on up here. So that'll be Sophie Bridgman, Veronica Woods, and Dayreen Chalmer Rodriguez. Can you 3 come up for me? Girl. All right, so they're going to ask you just a couple questions. So go ahead and step up right up here. All right, so introduce yourself and say what grade you're in and what school you're in.
I'm Sophia Bridgman.
A little louder, just a little bit louder.
I'm in 7th grade and I go to Dennis Middle School. I'm Veronica. I'm in 7th grade and I go to Dennis. My name is David. I'm in 5th grade and I go to Tennessee.
So we'll have you guys can ask some questions of our artist today, and then we'll also be doing a photo op here in a little bit also. So go ahead. Have any questions?
I would only ask that if we do ask them questions, if they'll step up a little closer. Couldn't hear a thing that you said, please. And this is really
Take one
important.
more step forward. All right, good.
Not that you're nervous or anything like that, and speaking with a bunch of adults, one with a lot of hair like myself, but yes, just feel free to.
So question number 1 is, who's the first signer of the Declaration of Independence? Oh, okay, that's it. If anybody answers that.
So Sophia, share with us the fact that you were found to be in the first place slot, and we'll have the cards shipped to our homes and delivered to our homes around the community. What was your inspiration for the card and for the artwork?
So it's the tree from Nightmare Before Christmas that Sally holds when it burns. And I just had that idea because, Christmas, I thought of that and I recently watched it. So it just kind of popped up in my head and I drew it. And I really didn't think it was going to win.
But here you are. And congratulations. Yes.
And who did you guys bring with you? Anybody celebrating with you tonight?
My parents and my grandma.
Okay.
Well, we're going to embarrass them. Point
Yeah.
out.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And so, Veronica, who did you bring with you? So that's a great person to be with and family to be with. And so congratulations to you. And then share with us, Ms. Rodriguez, who did you bring with you?
My mom.
You have your mother with you, and she's in the back there.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Congratulations to the
Well, you guys
parents.
should be very proud, and parents, you guys should be proud too.
And we have an art teacher here as well. So who's your art teacher?
Miss Fox.
Fox.
Yes, she is. All right.
And then Doreen, who was your art teacher as well?
She isn't here today, but
This is right.
Mrs. Wright is doing girls basketball tryouts.
Yes.
So she was unfortunately unable to attend.
Yeah.
And so, from an artistic standpoint, how long have you all been drawing? Ms. Rodriguez, let's start with you.
I have never drawn in my life.
Okay. So you've never drawn before, and here you are, a third place winner. Wow.
I just drew something that just came up in my mind because I just wanted to do something basic. So then I just drew a snowman.
Okay.
That's really
And Ms. Woods, what inspired your drawing? What were you thinking about when you, because I think you had a Christmas tree, had a small slant to it, which is great, star up top. What inspired you to draw it? Was it your art teacher or?
Hers.
Okay. That's the impactful power of teacher influences. So that's good. Yes. Younger siblings with you as well? Are they artistic, or you all see a career as an artist? You know, we have a great art museum. Okay, maybe not. Well, congratulations.
they're-
Yes,
yeah,
they're
we
ready to sit back down. Congratulations.
Great job.
So here's your artwork, and then that'll be for you. And then have a sport tour, and then we also have some cards for you to take home. You can pass those out, so those will be going out throughout the different businesses and communities here in Richmond. And Veronica, here's yours. And we're gonna picture, okay? And then. All right.
Scoot back a little bit. This is,
All right, ladies, you're done.
All right. I'm now going to open the floor for a motion to close the business meeting portion as we open it up for a public hearing.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
We have a first, a second. All right, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, so our public hearing, we have the 2023-2025 collective bargaining tentative agreement. And I declare this public hearing open. So I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit about that. In accordance with IC 20-29-6-19, in addition to holding at least one public hearing with testimony, the school employer must conduct a public meeting to discuss the tentative collective bargaining agreement at least 72 hours before it is ratified by the school employer. The tentative agreement has been posted on the school employer's website at least 72 hours prior to the public meeting. And at this time, we will take public testimony regarding the tentative agreement. The public testimony can be written or oral. The same guidelines for public commentary will be utilized to ensure the public feels welcome and that the testimony is timely and efficient. So, as far as our public comment, the board wants to ensure that the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely and efficient manner. The following protocol has been established. This protocol applies to other public participation such as email, which is considered a public expression. So, we are allotting the maximum time for individual speakers is 5 minutes per person. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when the statement is too lengthy, personally directive, or abusive, or obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in Policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting. The public participant will receive a personal follow-up email from the board president within a week. So, with that said, Dr. Wright.
Mrs. Elsmeyer, do we have anyone that is signed up to speak?
I do not have anyone who signed up to speak.
Okay.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion then to close the public hearing portion of our meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, moving on to our public commentary section. As I stated, we will be following the same rules. I won't repeat them. And wanted to know if there are, actually, we have highlights and happenings first. So we'll do that first. Sorry.
Sounds good.
Okay, so highlights and happenings. We have superintendent is giving us your share out. Go ahead.
Yes, President Stokes and trustees, I come before you this evening with our cabinet, amazing cabinet team to share a lot of the highlights and happenings from throughout the corporation. I will defer and would love to highlight the experience that was that of the collective bargaining from just a few weeks ago, but I know that that is going to come up and be well spoken about. What I want to bring to your attention is my involvement in the Applied Skills Thanksgiving Celebration Dinner. That is an annual dinner that's been going on for some time. Mrs. Marianne Avery and her amazing teaching team of Jennifer Hartman, Amanda Trentinella, and Brittany Wilson had invited myself and others to come over and take part in the annual celebration. Paraprofessionals Trevor Bunner, Derek Diva, Diana Douglas, Tracy Jones Alano, Bailey Peppinger, Samantha Gray, Ms. Bennett, and so many others were on hand to make for a memorable experience with our exceptional learning students there in the Applied Skills classroom. It was a week-long event, as I understood. They went out, purchased products from the grocery store. I think one of the students asked where Cox's was. I know Cox's is one of our beloved grocery stores from yesteryear, but they went to the grocery store, learned how to engage in the purchasing process, learned then how to prepare the meals, the ingredients that came along, and then it evolved and manifested into a beautiful experience with the Applied Skills students coming together for fellowship and fun. It was a joyous time. The kids, not one single kid, left that experience without a smile on their face, and the faculty and staff as well. And so, like I said, it was something that I would encourage everyone to take part in as years come to fold. And also would like to thank Mrs. Elizabeth Margaret, our exceptional learning director here at the central office level, Mrs. Stephanie Baker, and Mrs. Ray Whoopi, administration team there at RHS, Ms. Monica Wright, who is council lead for our Applied Skills students, and so many others that the parents, guardians, and the students for such an amazing experience. It was, they allowed me to serve food without a hairnet, and I was quite pleased with that, but no, we had a good time. Mr. Baker, along with our cabinet, will now share their highlights and happenings from their respective departments. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, our K-8 students will begin the iReady math and reading middle of the year assessments on December the 4th. We're excited to see our students' growth and performance in both math and reading. We'll use this data to guide our instruction and our small groups when the students return from winter break.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mr. Fowler, secondary education.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to touch really briefly on all the secondary sites. I'm going to start with Dennis. So Dennis wrote and received a $5,000 grant from Walmart to help pay for the 8th grade trip. So we found out a little bit about that last week. And so they're super, super excited for the $5,000 grant, because that'll help supplement the amount for students who maybe can't pay. So we are excited about that. The STEAM students in Mr. Zerwell's Project Lead the Way course visited Cope Environmental Center to learn about ecological sustainability in conjunction with their unit on green architecture. Students are now going to engineer and build a sustainable structure as part of their coursework. So we'll see how that sustainable architecture goes in the class. Test had their first assembly on November 3rd. They've broken the school into some houses. The names of the house are Positivity, Tenacity, Curiosity, and Integrity. They all got together in the gym and they had some games. And it was a great assembly. They also were able to celebrate that 11 teachers at Test had perfect attendance for the second grading period, which was awesome to hear. And then lastly, Richmond High School had their Play Pure Imagination that they put on last weekend. So they were super excited about that. Things are really busy as the winter sports season starts at the secondary level, but everything's been wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Margaret. Mrs. Elizabeth Margaret, our exceptional learning chief.
Well, thank you. Dr. Wright stole my thunder on the applied skills Thanksgiving together, but I just want to give a shout out to our applied skills team for planning that. It's a great celebration to bring all of the students together with their former teachers and seeing former students in other classrooms. So I appreciate the team planning that for their students. The other highlight I wanted to share is our Logos teachers, T. Washington, Roya Mays, and Richard Schroyer from Hibbard were selected to present at the National Association for Gifted Children Conference in Orlando. They presented on Project Group, and they talked about their journey with Project Group, all that they've learned, things they would change and abandon with their middle school gifted students. So they did an amazing job and represented RCS well on a national level. So I wanted to highlight that group.
Thank you, Mrs. Margaret. This is Jamie Bolzer, our Chief of Human Resources and Finance.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to start by saying we are seeing the successes of our classified employee salary increases that this board passed last month. We've hired several permanent substitutes, district subs, paraprofessionals, and environmental service employees since the last board meeting. Many of these positions have been consistently unfilled for the course of last year. Also, since the last school board meeting, Richmond Community Schools reached a tentative agreement with the Richmond Education Association. I want to thank both sides for their hard work and dedication. I would also like to quote a few of the members that contributed to the process. First, with Dr. Curtis Wright, Superintendent. We are pleased to have reached a contractual agreement with our classroom teachers that reflects the needs of our faculty, staff, and students. Upon coming home, I have consistently expressed that the most impactful people in our classrooms are our classroom teachers. This teacher's contract is further confirmation that our corporation is committed to action-based leadership. As a result of such leadership, we have strengthened the partnership with our classroom teachers, which will be of benefit to the students that our teachers selflessly serve. Indiana State Teacher Association, or ISTA, UniServe Director and former REA President Scott Priest acknowledged that this teacher's contract is the most significant contractual agreement in the history of Richmond Community Schools. REA Vice President Jay Lee shared this is not an RCS contract nor an REA contract. This is our contract. I would like to add that with the ratification of this contract, we will utilize the money set aside for the supplemental stipends. We will present a resolution to amend and retract the original resolution to reflect this. With the passing of the supplemental resolution, by utilizing newly enacted statutory language that allowed the use of non-bargain supplemental stipends, Richmond Community Schools was able to experience a substantial increase in our teacher retention rate, moving from approximately 74% retention the prior year to 92% for this school year. Time was of the essence since most teachers submit their intent to leave in the month, and the following month the resolution was adopted. As was originally presented at the time the supplemental resolution was passed, we honored our commitment to collectively bargain. We worked together to find a mutually agreeable solution and to implement a salary schedule which was needed for the last decade plus. In essence, we experienced a win-win with being able to retain our teachers with the passing of the supplemental resolution and then still bargaining the money with our Richmond Education Association, as was always the intent. Also, the more information on this will be going out, as well as the prior of what I just mentioned, but the Indiana Department of Education notified schools just this last Friday that we can anticipate distribution of the Teacher Appreciation Grant, or TAG funds, by Friday, December 1st. We plan to disperse our qualifying teachers by Friday, December 8th with a special pay, which is substantially ahead of the statutory 20 business day requirement. To be eligible, teachers must be employed as a bargaining unit member with RCS for the 22-23 school year and received a highly effective or effective rating by RCS in the most recent performance evaluation and employed as of December 1st. Teachers evaluated as highly effective received 25% more than an effective rating.
Thank you, Mrs. Bolzer.
I had one question. Just to clarify, because I've been hearing that there's some confusion regarding some of our teachers who have been with us for several years, some of the high-end teachers, so to speak. So just to clarify, anyone who is currently making more than what the schedule shows will be locked in.
Correct. No base amounts will be going backwards.
Okay.
Those are just really like a floor. It's a placement floor to make sure everybody is at least at that amount. But if their base amount already exceeds the salary schedule, they will remain at their current base amount, and everyone will receive at minimum of 100 or of 1,000. I hate to misspeak like that. Will receive a minimum of $1,000 one-time stipend for this school year. The retention stipend, if you recall, the $525 retention stipend, and that's why I mentioned amended plan or amended resolution, because we are honoring that commitment still of that $525. The first half of that was paid out in October. The second half will be paid out in March of 2024. So we're still going to honor that commitment as well. I could give you a few other bulleted points if you would like.
Go ahead, just, I think it's good for, the public to know what's going on, and especially for teachers that are being affected.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, we were able to work together to implement a salary schedule. As I said, it was much overdue, I think, and it was something that we dedicated ourselves to doing. The salary schedule is commensurate with education and years of experience. So kind of like the old way, you'll have years of experience that step down, and then the columns are bachelor plus 15, bachelor plus 30, master plus 15, master's plus 30. On average, so average, which means some are above this, some are below this, but on average, there's a 10% or $4,500 increase with a minimum additional compensation of $1,000. To break that down a little bit more, because I know that obviously when you're dealing with averages, they're just that. People fall above that and below that. 50% of teachers will receive 10% or more. 27% of teachers will receive 5% to 9%. 12% of teachers will receive a minimum of a one-time stipend in the amount of $1,000. The average salary group within that is $71,408. 84% of teachers will receive over $1,000. 79% of teachers will receive over $2,000. 67% of teachers will receive over $3,000. 56% of teachers will receive over $4,000. There is a status quo in the second year, because as we know, with implementing to the salary schedule, I think the reason it hasn't been able to be done is because it takes a lot of money in order to do so. And we really appreciated the understanding that obviously this is a multi-contract in order to get all the things addressed. The smaller things that are outside of the base or the salary necessarily are ancillary duty compensation for absorption or supervision of classes and an attendance incentive. There were some things about when pay will be, beginning in the 24-25 school year, we're going to go from a bi-monthly to a bi-weekly, from 24 pays to 26 pays, beginning with the 24-25 school year. Again, to Mrs. Stoltz's point, current base is grandfathered if the salary schedule does not increase, meaning no base amount will be lower in any way. And the other thing that was discussed so that everybody would have, this isn't necessarily something that's bargainable, but it is something that, knowing the status quo was in place for the second year, we presented, and so this board will be seeing an amendment to the 24-25 school calendar to reduce the number of contractual days from 186 to 185 for our teaching staff. That is getting us a little bit more in line with our other area schools, and so that daily rate will be increased then for our teaching staff in the 24-25 school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And sorry to interrupt.
Well, you're good. You're good. No, appreciate it. No, that's great. That's great. That's great for clarity. Mrs. Scalf, our Chief of Operations, will now join the conversation for her highlight and happy.
Yeah, good evening. If you haven't noticed, our buildings are in full swing with after school activities. It is our busy season, so a special thank you to all of our coaches and our sponsors and our dedicated staff who make things happen for our kids after hours, as well as our custodial staff who make sure that the buildings get picked up and ready to go for the next day each evening. As well as I want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to our bus drivers and food service workers
who went above and beyond last week or I think it was last week. It feels like it's been kind of one of those things but during the power outage that we did not expect, and it wasn't an easy decision. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's hard to make enough meals in that amount of time. And I just am so grateful for a staff that makes things happen for kids. And our bus drivers were back en route within minutes of the decision being made. Headed out to our buildings. Our food service workers stuck around even longer than usual so that kids who didn't get picked up right away could have snacks if they were there a little bit later than usual. And just a lot of people made some really great things happen during that really unexpected event. So I just want to say thank you to them.
And just to piggyback, as you referenced the classified staff did a tremendous job, and the certified staff, our classroom educators and administrative leaders also swung in action on such a day.
Absolutely.
You know, we are prepared oftentimes, and we drill and rehearse particular disasters, tornado drills. The power outage was a curveball, and not many corporations experience as such, but just tremendous job collectively, and also kudos to you, Mrs. Scalf, and your team there on the operations side of things. And so with that, I now ask Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker to rejoin us as our communications and marketing coordinator to share her highlighting happenings.
Well, a lot of kids, a lot of staff have been collecting food for our community, so that has been a huge blessing for many of us. Here at Central Office, we donated over 800 items. We had a little department contest, and the Human Resource and Business Office did extremely well. Loaded up my truck, we took everything to Rock Solid Ministries, and then just, I know all the other schools have also been doing donation collections as well. The HR business office, they won. They had over 471 items. They did.
Competition was tight.
They did very well. So another thing, I've been taking some radio TV students with me around the community to do some different events. They've been getting some hands-on material as far as getting some B-roll for us. So we did conservation days at the fairgrounds with our 4th graders. We also have attended Joseph Moore Museum, their Early's campus. Parent Square also was very helpful during our power outage. We had students picked up at the schools and transported, getting that information out, so that was very good as well. And then also, we just added an additional preschool at Charles Elementary School, so we are now getting those students in our classrooms. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazelbaker. And we also would like to thank our parents and guardians and community members during that power outage. You can imagine communications go down trying to convey such a message. It was difficult, but we all made it work.
All right, thank you so much. We now want to open it up to public commentary. Cindy?
We have 5 signed up tonight. The first one is Trevor Hall.
Wait, you just wander on up here?
Wander on up here,
All right. Is this, can I set this here? Is that gonna interfere with anything? I'm good, okay. Just make sure I don't wanna break anything. Not that rich, okay?
And just real quick, was everyone present when I read the rules, so to speak, the 5 that are here? Okay, yes, Bridget is saying.
I would say just go ahead and do it again.
I'll go ahead and do it again. Okay,
I'll sit
thanks.
down while you do that.
Okay.
My steps today, it's fine.
Better safe than sorry. Okay, so the school trustees, we recognize the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board wants to ensure that the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely, efficient manner. The board wants to also give 5 minutes per person at maximum time. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, and obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in Policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, and the public participant will receive a personal follow-up email from the board president within a week. All you.
Now, I had called Friday to sign up, but I wasn't made aware that there was a 5-minute time limit, so mine was like double that. I'm gonna just paraphrase.
Okay.
It's a little disjunct, please forgive me. My
Did
name's
you
Trevor.
say your name yet?
Yeah, my name's
Sorry.
Trevor Hall.
Trevor Hall. Okay.
I'm
thank you.
a Richmond graduate, but on top of that, since 2009, I've been donating time, services, with private lessons, equipment to the school. I totaled it up in anticipation for this. It was just over $100,000. So that just should give you a idea of how involved I've been. Okay. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Kelly McDermott. I understand that she's up for, well, we all know, right? As a student, Mrs. McDermott is very memorable, to say the least. I was reading up on some of this, not having been local for a number of years, and I came across a quote that Dr. Wright had said. Said, the most important people in our classrooms are our classroom teachers. They have impact on our students that is not only felt today, but they have an everlasting impact on the students that we serve. And that is certainly true in my case with her. We haven't maintained a relationship at all. I mean, I just kind of saw this. I heard whispers through the grapevine, and decided that it was important to be here to voice that to you all. In the interest of time, I mean, I can't get into much more or I'll run over, so thank you.
Thank you.
Our second is Casey Raper.
Get this set up here. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's the teacher voice. Right? Okay. She who cannot be named. My name is Mrs. Casey Raper, and I taught at Dennis Middle School alongside she who cannot be named for 20 years. She was a dedicated educator who devoted her professional life to the well-being of the students and her colleagues. She who cannot be named was a top student-oriented classroom neighbor, team member, coach, teacher advocate, and friend. I would be remiss if I did not conclude that you have not been all those things. Instead, you have chosen to be selfish, narcissistic, political bullies, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. You need to stop your political agendas and listen. You need to revisit the purpose for the betterment of all RCS academia. In other words, turn your business model toward education, educators, and students, not Coke versus Pepsi or stadiums. I instead state that this is rather, using NFL terms, Steelers versus Saints. You have crossed the line with she who cannot be named and teachers in general. Thank you.
Cindy?
Pardon me if I get the last name
That's
wrong.
okay.
Gary Weiler.
Weird.
Weird, sorry, okay.
That's okay, I go through it all the time.
Mr. Weir, we know how to say your name. Those who are still affected by those push-ups and sit-ups. And
Oh my gosh. If you don't know, my name's Gary Ware. I was a 40-year veteran of Richmond Community Schools. Happily retired in 2017. You were there. I was called Mr. Weir or Coach Weir. I still am when I see other kids. Even Dr. Wright still calls me Coach Weir.
Yes, sir.
Now my main title is Grandpa, which I like. I come here tonight to talk to you about communication. This school system used to communicate to the public with a public TV show. You don't do that anymore. We used to have a local paper that would cover it, tell about the goings on in Richmond Community Schools. We don't have that anymore. And for what I can remember, almost 50 years that I know of, the teaching staff had an opportunity to communicate with their union representative at your all-state meeting you hold in August on the first day. They were not allowed to do that. They weren't even on the agenda. And I wondered why. Well, through communicating with some other fellow humans, I discovered this school system changed the bargaining protocol during the summer. That happens. In protecting the bargaining unit, the union then filed an unfair labor practice with the labor board. Now, that was the situation you found yourself in August. That had already taken place. Now, from a teaching standpoint, we relaxed during the summer. We recharged. We let the union take the heavy lifting and negotiate in the summertime. And when the teachers come back in August, they want to be informed, have communication of what went on. The union does the heavy lifting and they communicate to the bargaining unit at this all-state meeting. Now, when August rolls around, they were waiting to be informed, but they found out they weren't even on the agenda. As I said, that's always happened for the last 50 years. At the end of the meeting, the union gets recognized. That's not fostering communication. Anyway, word has it that the teachers communicated after the superintendent dismissed the meeting, an impromptu meeting in the lobby. Kelly McDermott spoke, gave them some information for about 5 minutes. Questions were raised, so a little more time was taken. Answers were given. You know, that's the communication part. You say something, they say something. You exchange ideas. A couple days later, Kelly was informed. She was insubordinate with the recommendation her contract be terminated. You, as an administration, have that right to set your agenda. I don't argue with that. What does seem problematic to me, you didn't want communication going on after the meeting, a formal meeting. This was informal. Kelly McDermott was insubordinate for gathering outside your formal meeting, communicating. Isn't that what the president of the school union is supposed to do? I think that's part of her job description. Communicating with her constituents. That's her job. To me, that speaks of you are retaliating for filing an unfair labor practice. Now, you have a system that, like most systems across the state, are experiencing a teacher shortage. Whenever I'm back visiting our RHS, Josh Amos tries to get me to substitute. But like I said, I'm happily a retired grandpa. But it worries me that you're going to recruit people out of education schools. What are they going to hear? Retaliation. In my teaching life, administration and I have never gotten along, always. But we communicated. But we did agree that communication is crucial. That's what Kelly did. She was communicating to her fellow colleagues. Now you want her to be terminated. Terminating a loyal plus 30-year teaching career. For what? Communicate. That's what I call egregious. Thank you very much.
So who's next?
David Murray.
Good evening. I'm David Murray, and first of all, I want to thank you for your time. I just retired last year from Dennis after many years. I've had the pleasure to work with so many great teachers. One of them's here tonight, KC. And current RE president is one of the best teachers I've ever worked with for 23 years. She's a driven, organized teacher who develops inspiring relationships with her students and peers. She's continued to demonstrate the drive through her tenure at Dennis, in which she has always been evaluated as highly effective or effective. She embraces any opportunity for professional development, which makes her an ideal leader. Likewise, she can accelerate and challenge her brightest of students because of their professional development experiences she's pursued and mastered. She has a wonderful rapport with people of all ages, especially her students. Her ability to connect with her students and her talent at teaching simple concepts, as well as the more advanced ones, are both truly superior. She has the ability to help students explore their gifts and achieve their learning goals. Every day I walked in her classroom, she had her learning goals up there. Every day. She's also inspired her students to cultivate a genuine love for learning. She has excellent written and verbal communication skills with both parents and teachers. She accomplishes all these tasks in teaching and representing REA with great initiative and with a positive attitude. As we all know, the REA president is in the position to discuss policies that most affect teachers in schooling and are bargained by REA, the administration, and voted on by the school board, which I'm glad to hear that they come up with something. The REA president has to balance competing interests and obligations from concerns and priorities of their members to the pressure from the state and national affiliates. As like most teacher union presidents, the REA president is no different. She advocates for teacher professionalism and more collaborative approaches to collective bargaining. The REA president is the leader and representative of all the teachers. She and the union committees are the bargaining unit that lobby or promote or debate issues on behalf of all the teachers. She's the leader to have in the teaching profession to be more prestigious and allow teachers to have more say over their teaching conditions, as opposed to leaving control to performers, politicians, and various community members. Let's face it, the two main reasons people leave education are low pay and benefits and not having their voices heard. In the long run, this will lead to educators leaving the profession. Schools that do both bargaining and discussion are doing a much better job of retaining educators. Where there's a clear indication that my voice doesn't matter, it causes people to leave and go other places. When you look at high-performing states that are unionized, the notions of teachers having a voice in a collective way, the notion of teachers fighting for equity for kids, the notion of teachers fighting for the tools and conditions that they need, is something that is actually long-term helps in education. Yes, it's inconvenient to management, especially when you have to actually answer somebody's question, just like a democracy. Sometimes it's messy. But at the end of the day, all of us have to learn and to look at ourselves in the mirror to see what we've done right, what we've done wrong, change what has or is broken. I did that all the time in my lessons. I went, what worked, what didn't work. But ultimately, a union voice is a voice for teachers. It's indispensable in the process of public education. It reminds me of the first administrative class I took at Ball State, and I had to read the One Best system. It is the One Best system. You have a union, you have an administration, and then you have a board. It is the One Best system. In conclusion, the REA president, through the many years, has had a friendly relationship with the Dennis faculty and all of the past administrations that she's had to work with. She has a great work ethic. She has managed to make herself an integral and valuable member of Richmond Community Schools for many, many years. And her dedication to her profession is her greatest strength. Isn't it time to reinstate her and drop all the politics and put this travesty behind all of us and focus on the real issues that are facing Richmond Community Schools? Again, thank you for your time.
Washington.
I want to start by saying thank you to the school board members who donated food to our food drive outside there. I was freezing for an hour and a half. It was worth it. But it's going to a good cause. So thank you for that. As you know, I'm T. Washington, and I am here to speak on the reinstatement of my elected union president. I am a representative of the Richmond Education Association, and I teach and live here in this community. Locally, we represent over 200 union members who rely on our association to be the direct line from the staff working in our schools to the administration and downtown offices that are often disconnected from the work we do. Our members were recently affected by the RCS School Board, where they silenced the voice of our union by placing our acting president on leave. We are not alone. Statewide, we are part of a collective of over 30,000 union members, the largest labor union actually in the state. Union members across the state are watching us to evaluate whether or not RCS is able to see past their initial reactions and hoping to see if cooler heads prevail. Fortunately, this board has the opportunity to rectify the decision to put our leader on leave. Sometimes rash decisions are made in the midst of a dispute. As leaders, we are tasked with speaking on behalf of our members, which means acting in your capacity as a leader rather than as an individual. We hope our board is able to see past this disagreement and work collaboratively with our leadership. This is exemplified by our ability to reach a tentative agreement just this past week. We know that there is tension to navigate and working collaboratively with people who have a responsibility that is different than our own. As leaders, we have the responsibility to navigate this tension and make it productive for the needs of both our constituents, who ultimately are the same group of people. We all represent Richmond, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
And the last is Ali Rivera.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Ali Rivera and I come as a parent. Actually, it's National Absurdity Day, so it's kind of ironic that I'm actually standing here because it's pretty absurd that I even have to come to address this. But I came to express my concerns about how your board and administration has handled the removal of this veteran educator. You have already heard comments prior about her character, her stellar teaching record, her love for teaching, the empathy for her students, her compassion for advocating for teachers, and so on. I'm not concerned if you like her or not. I don't care that she apparently ruffled some feathers or annoyed some of you or she made your duties harder. I don't care that she spoke up at a gathering or in the hallway or whatever, that you didn't want her to, that she previously was allowed to in years past. Not allotting time this particular year does raise a red flag. I'm led to believe that your choices of action for her dismissal has been exacerbated by seemingly minor situations. What I do care about is your silence, which is deafening. Your choice, albeit guidance from your counsel or personal choice, to remain silent speaks volumes. A board member stated in May, the consistency that students see is important. Those relationships that students build with their teachers is critical to academic success. So the retention of teachers is critical to their academic success. And I wholeheartedly agree with this statement. I assume this was in response to the stipends for teachers. However, it rings true to this teacher's dismissal and not working through these issues. Is what she did so blatantly harmful that you would jeopardize the relationship with her students and their academic success? I am to assume yes, and that she was reprimanded multiple times within your school policy prior to her dismissal. The impact that she has had on thousands of students and her colleagues during her career is notable and impressive, which I'm sure was taken into consideration before such drastic measures were taken against her. Many of you ran for your seats on this board on transparency, and this is not transparency. The video released mentioned a situation with one teacher. She is more than one teacher. In fact, you came for her, you came for me, you came for my kids, parents, past, present, and future educators. Since we haven't heard your sides or her side, we are left to assume your actions are validated, and her actions were so heinous that she deserved to be sent home immediately, room cleaned out, silenced, treated like a criminal, and to wait her fate, potentially to be fired and dismissed after 35 plus years with your corporation. No statement has been made supporting your choices or actions. Why? Is this who we are now? Is this a precursor of the future here? It's quite embarrassing and a stain on RCS. If you can silence her and try to dissolve her contract, as well as remove her presidency with REA in this manner, who else are you silencing? This will continue to put a strain on retention and recruitment. There is no doubt there is tension between teachers, associations, unions, board presidents, administrations. This is a national public education problem and has been for decades. Sadly, the politics behind it affects all our kids. I have 2 daughters now at RCS, and I want to be a good steward of our corporation. But this is wrong. So I'll ask you, what did she do? Insubordinate? Is that what this is about? And are your swift actions to remove her really justified and or fair? We deserve to know the truth, whether we disagree or not. And I'll conclude with this. 15 weeks a teacher without her classroom. 15 weeks of students without their teacher. 15 weeks stripped of her role as an REA president. 15 weeks of students not having consistency. 15 weeks of you being silent. 15 weeks. Being accountable, whether right or wrong, goes a long way. But if you steadfast continue to stay silent and wait for these hearings, your words about caring for all our teachers will be taken with great caution. And I hope my daughters will learn to stand up with conviction for whatever they're passionate about, like she did for her teachers. So please do better, because I know you can. Thank you.
All right, thank you all, and we will now move to our consent items, 6.01 through 6.05.
President Stoltz, trustees, again, we come before you, and I, as superintendent, to ask for approval of consent items 6.01 through 6.05 as presented.
I move that we approve the consent items as appear on our docket and the agenda.
All right, we have a motion?
Second.
Second? All right. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, action items, 7.01. We have Mr. Fowler.
Yeah, so thank you, President Stoltz. Trustees, what you have before you tonight is a proposal for an overnight trip for Spanish 3 through AP students. This is way ahead of time. This is not until 2025. So spring break of not this year, but the following. The reason for it coming to you now is they would like to fundraise and start to plan the trip. So we attached as much information regarding student to chaperone ratios, where they would be. The premise behind this is for Spanish 3 and AP students, the cultural context to historical enrichment is really what they're looking for here. So try to put as much backup information as possible, but if you have any questions, I will do my very best to answer those for you.
Well, I could do that in the questions and comments. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the 7.01, the RHS Spanish 3 overnight field trip.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, so as far as my questions and comments, so I'm super excited to see this. Could you tell the public just some of the details that we get to see, but just if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea behind this would be that our Spanish students have matriculated through Spanish up to Spanish 3 and then potentially into AP Spanish. So real world cultural immersion, some language proficiency, AP preparation in terms of real-time conversation in Spanish in a cultural context where they actually speak it. And then this has been something in the works for the Spanish department for quite some time. And so the team got together and said, hey, next year seems like a great opportunity. There's a lot of interest in Spanish. The numbers are up in Spanish 3 and AP Spanish. And they wanted to give students a chance to fundraise ahead of time. So they're very excited.
And where will they be going?
They are going to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so also I believe I put on there, it is over spring break, so they wouldn't be missing class time. I believe depending on when they would leave, maybe it's the evening of the Friday leading into spring break and they would be back for the Monday, so they wouldn't miss class time.
All right. Well, obviously, as a former Spanish teacher, makes me really excited. I'm probably gonna be voting yes on this one, just saying. All right. So, any other questions or comments? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right. Vote passes 6-0. Next, we have our donations. Mrs. Bolser.
Thank you. You have in front of you 14 donations received by Richmond Community Schools. I ask that you accept these donations and thank those who offered them in their kindness. In front of you, you have $200 to Bleacher Creatures from Heine's, $3,250 to RHS Athletics from First Bank Richmond, $500 to RHS Automotive Class from Rick and Carolyn Falls, $100 to Mr. Anthony Johnson Spring Musical from Wayne Bank, $50 to Civic Hall Proudly Presenting Series from Jan Darkey, $500 to RHS Orchestra from the Marsteller, $1,000 to RHS Girls Basketball Program from Gary and Lois Brown, $250 to the Girls Basketball Program from Mr. and Mrs. Sheridan, $50 to the Girls Basketball Program from Tommy Ambergry, $500 to the Athletic Program from ICE 2020 or Optivision, $3,500 to the Outdoor Shelter Place on the Crestdale Playground from Crestdale PTO, $100 to Bleacher Creature from Edwin Burkhardt and Adam Rising, another $100 to the Bleacher Creatures from Georgia Ambergy, and $839.99 for the American flag for the athletic program from Mike and Terry Farrell. In total, $10,939.99.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Just thank you to everybody. Every time we look at donations, it's just a reminder of how generous our community really is.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, next we have personnel hiring and background checks. Mrs. Bolser.
Thank you. Pursuant to IC 20-26-5-11.2, effective July 1, 2023, a school corporation may employ or contract with an individual convicted of certain offenses if a majority of the members elected or appointed into the governing body of the school corporation approves the employment or contract as a separate special agenda item. We have a new employee referenced by the employee ID number, had an alert come back on the background check report for employment, and the offenses would not exclude the employee from employment pursuant to IC 20-26-5-11.2.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, next we have a resolution to transfer appropriation. Mrs. Bolser?
Thank you. The Board of School Trustees of Richmond Community Schools may approve the transfer of money from one major budget classification to another if the transfer does not require the expenditure of more money than the total amount set out in the budget as finally determined, and if the transfer is approved at a regular public meeting and by the proper ordinance. In front of you, you have resolution to transfer appropriation, resolution number 2311-1. Whereas the Board of School Trustees, again, may approve the transfer of money from one major budget classification to the other if a transfer does not require the expenditure of more money than the total amount set out as in the budget as finally determined, and if the transfer is approved at a regular public meeting and by the proper resolution. Be it resolved by the Board that it is desired and deemed necessary that the following transfers be made within the accounts of the designated funds as set out in the attachment. And there is an attachment within that, and it gives you every single expenditure account and the transfer. What is our goal is to provide this more so on a monthly routine basis rather than just as a one lump sum at the
end of a fiscal year or calendar year. So that's what you have in front of you.
I move to approve 7.04, the resolution number 2311-1, resolution to transfer appropriation is presented.
Okay,
Second,
all right. Any questions or comments?
and I just have one. I would assume that we'll have a resolution in December, kind of the big red button resolution to do those final transfers at the end of the year.
Yes, this kind of helps with the facility.
It'll probably be a blanket one.
Correct. That's usually what it is. But
Avoid having funds in the red, so that, and then you'll ratify the actual transfers in your January meeting. That's typically the way it's done, so that's what we've done.
That's typically the way I've done it in 20 years, is I present to you a blanket resolution to permit me the authority in order to do that, and then the authority to report back in January or the following month. Also with that, I usually do a blanket additional appropriation request just to make sure that we're covered and that no expenditure may put us over what has been approved by the board. So we do that as a precursor as well. Normally, I've never needed to have one done, and I report that back at the January meeting as well. But we'll do that as a precautionary measure as well.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, we've got another resolution to reimburse expenditures. Mrs. Bolser.
Thank you. You have resolution number 2311-2, resolution to reimburse expenditures. Richmond Community Schools intends to finance renovations and improvements to school facilities, including site improvements and purchase of technology and equipment. The school corporation reasonably expects to reimburse certain costs of the project with proceeds of obligations to be incurred on behalf of the school corporation. In front of you again is the resolution that just permits us to go ahead, and as we begin with that debt issuance timetable, it allows us the flexibility to reimburse ourselves if we're utilizing cash balance. It's more of like an insurance policy and a protective measure so that we can adequately balance what we are utilizing cash balance of and being able to minimize the interest rate costs, and also so that it doesn't slow down those projects that we're pulling from that capital projects over into that debt to allow additional resources within our education fund from that ed to op transfer. So this is just allowing that flexibility. Why is the amount $6 million? I would just say that is close to the maximum non-controlled amount that keeps it under that. So that is one of the things that we're considering as we're going through this process and trying to pin the, as we go through the bottleneck of trying to streamline some of the projects that we're looking at. And I've provided you within this presentation the current draft that will be evolving as we go through the timetable.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. And any questions or comments?
Just one. This does not commit us to the bond issue.
That is correct. What this does is when we go, or if we go to issue the bond, it does allow us to reimburse those expenses through the bond issuance. However, if there's hesitation on the bond issuance, probably now is a good time to mention that before we ratify the contract on November 27th and before we begin to believe that we're going to have the ability to reimburse ourselves with cash balance. However, this does not actually issue the bond. You are correct.
I mean, I will follow. I am a little concerned about the issuance that we have grown our scope to fill that number. I think there may be times where we're in need of cash more than now, and it'd be nice if that was on the shelf available for us to use rather than using it now and spending it. I mean, so I'm not against it. I just want us to maybe make sure this is the time to spend those funds. So I'll, as you provide more information, I will absorb that, and then. But I think this is a tool, and I want to make sure this is the right time.
All right, Ron?
Yeah, this is worded a little unusually. Did you get this from Jane?
Jane Herndon, yeah.
Okay, well, typically the reimbursement resolution, and we just closed on one today, or we'll be closing a week from today, for another school, is intended to cover front-end cost that you incur without knowing whether you're even going to issue a bond. So I think some concern is that you're not making a commitment to borrow money by doing this. You're not encumbering any specific funds, but you are under the IRS regulations. It's kind of like putting a circle around a date on a calendar. And if you can show that this is the date that you passed this resolution, then it's kind of like an inducement. You're proving an inducement to go forth. So it's typically you may have design fees are the big ones, and architects, financial planning. Those are the type of things that can come at the front end, and the front end may not end up having a rear end, so to speak. So if it does, you reimburse yourself. If not, you just have to cash flow those as part of your financial planning. So this is very, very common. In fact, I can't recall having done one that we didn't do that, and then I've done probably 50. So.
All right, any further questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion on the table as well as a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Next, we have contract for the turf replacement. Mrs. Scout.
Good evening. Before you is a contract with Sprint Turf. I do have a couple of samples for you to look at as you make your decision. So the field that we purchased in 2013 was an 8-year field. As you know, we have gotten 10 years out of it. And so we do a good job of maintenance, but it is time. When I met with Sprint Turf, they let me know that the field is in decent condition for its age. However, aesthetically, it really is in need of a lot of service, which you have to do in replacing the carpet. So before you tonight is a proposal with a number of alternates, and these alternates were based on things that I had heard in board meetings. They were also things that Mr. Bolser and I had looked at as we were looking at replacement of the field, as well as just best practice and the information provided by Sprint Turf. So tonight it is recommended that we take the base bid. It is also recommended that we take the alternate too, and the reason why is that is coming around. The two-tone turf that you see has a much thicker density of about 4 ounces on each level. It does make an impact change, and it lessens the impact when that occurs, if there is a fall, if there's things like that. The other thing, it gives us 2 additional years in warranty, and so that is the recommendation. However, if we determine to go with the base bid alone, that is an equal replacement to what we have right now. And the reason for the alternate is simply that I heard you when you were worried about some of that impact, some of that the change to the field, but both are solid choices and both provide multi-purpose use, as we currently do with both football and soccer. So tonight before you is a proposal for turf replacement. If we do sign this tonight, we will be on the schedule for June immediately following track season. So it will not impact summer sports at all. We are able to get that done with very little impact negatively to the summer programs. So that is a really great thing that I was trying to do as we were planning. So what I will say is the cost did come in higher than we expected. This is across the board. I spoke with a network of at least 10 of my peers, and all are seeing similar. In fact, this is actually one of the best costs, and that is just simply because they have won the national QPA for pricing. So the proposal is before you tonight for approval.
we have a motion?
I move to approve 7.06, the contract for Arches Field turf replacement as presented.
Alright. Second?
Second.
Okay. Questions or comments?
I do. If they're going to begin in June, approximately how long is it going to take for the replacement?
So it will take most of the month of June, but they will be done prior to the last week for sure. So all testing and everything would be finished prior to the last week of June.
Do we have any summer school courses or the band that will be using it?
The band
that
does
normally
not
use it?
Yeah, band does not use the field for summer practices. They actually use
I
the
know.
parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah, with the tower. And so if we do asphalt work, sometimes they'll move to test like that, and they utilize test, but they do not use the field in the summer. It will impact the soccer and football teams a little bit, but we will relocate them temporarily just for that month while they do this. And we do not foresee that to be a problem as long as we coordinate everything adequately.
All right.
It doesn't seem like it's gonna take nearly as long as it did when we originally did.
It is
because
a lot
all the
easier
base is already
this time
down,
around.
Yeah.
and so it's gonna be a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a concern with the split film. I know the NFL Players Association is calling for a ban in it due to the increase in injuries. So your alternate 2, the Predator turf, or alternate 1, I guess it's 4, the 4 and 5, the Implast shock and the green clay fiber. Are those different than the split film, or?
So the shock pad is a pad that is about this thick, and it goes between the layers. So it is an actual, it's a pad. It's totally different product.
Is there evidence or research to reduce injuries with that, or?
It's pretty new product. I asked if they had data, and they do not. The NFL is moving in that direction mostly because the impacts between people are much larger.
Sure.
They're heavier, they hit harder, things like that. And they're on it more. I mean, that they play a much longer season than what we do. What I will say is that the shock pad is nice. I'm not gonna, it is a wonderful product,
it'd be
as
tough to
is.
say they're on it longer.
Yeah, the
because
green.
all the multiple sports we have that use it. So.
Yeah, and I'll say the green plate fiber system, it's really nice. It's made with like a coconut grass product. It's very different. It is very new. It is very thick. However, it is extremely expensive. And so in order to at least be more within our budgetary range, we thought this provided us. So when I did the research, 50 ounces, which is this product, is the highest end of your base turf you can get. This is your normal average. So we have this right now. Going to the 50 does provide us with a little bit more cushion, and that's, but I mean, if we wanted to spend the significantly larger amount, I mean, it's an excellent product. I know one school that is going to it.
So you said
they have
coconut grass, is that a non-synthetic then?
Do what?
Is it a non-synthetic? Is it a natural product?
It is not a natural product. It's just that they utilize some of that in making it. So it is not. It is still turf. It just has some stuff in it. So like the turf that we have has the infill that is the beads. It mixes a little of that with grass. But it looks very different. So you're not going to get the same look. But it is very thick and it is very nice. It's just a little higher than our price range allows at present, unless you wanted to commit that much.
I mean, just my concern is that, when you've got organizations like the NFL trying to ban split film, thing that concerns me. So,
If we wait a month on this decision, does it delay the process?
yeah.
Yeah, we may not meet that June deadline. That's the key. I was trying to get in early enough on the schedule so that we could have as little impact to our summer programming as possible. Schools, I will say that of the 10 or 15 schools I talked to, almost half have to do their turf replacements this year. And so we're actually ahead of most of them. And so we can get on that schedule earlier, but yeah, it will impact the schedule a little bit, yeah.
You may have answered this a little bit, but can you reiterate the difference between the base bid of the dual fiber, the monofilament split film, and alternate 2, which you're proposing is the Predator turf system?
Right.
So what is the Predator turf compared to this?
The difference is this. So this is a 46 by 21 product, or 20 by 20. 46 by 20. You can tell it's a little thinner. It's what we have now. It's a fine product, and it is well within all recommendations. It is fine. This is a 50 by 24 ounce product. So you get 4 ounces of density per dimension. So it is thicker. I mean, if you feel it, you can feel it. It is thicker.
Still infilled with the repellents.
Yep. Same. Yep. So, and they were just here and re-sewed some of the carpet and checked the pellets while they were here. I did, as a part of this, I had asked for a number of services so that we don't have to pay additional for service. They will also provide a field sweeper. It's a little bit nicer, or a lot nicer than what we have. So we won't just have the little brooms anymore. We will actually have a field sweeper, and that will help maintain the field even better. They said that.
Is that towed behind something, or?
No, it's an all-in-one machine.
Okay.
And so that system is proving to lengthen the life sometimes of the turf. It doesn't mean you always have to replace it once you get it. Sometimes it will last your next. It just depends on the situations. But we do get a little more. I mean, we get more warranty. We got 10 years worth of warranty. We would get 5 field groomings in years 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. We would get, I did ask about the, I did ask because they talk about some testing that they do, the GMAX tests, and they said that that is really for, they will do one before they leave and they will do one mid-period. And that really is significant enough for what we need. Schools don't tend to have those all the time. And so they said that that provides us with what we need. So they did not recommend that we had to have the annual tests because they have covered that in the base. So, I mean, the sky is the limit on turf. That's what I will tell you. You can go as high as you want. You can go just kind of mid-range. So it's up to you, really.
And when they replace the turf, I know our base is there. They're gonna regrade it just to make sure there's no dips and valleys.
They'll regrade it and they will infill. So they will put new fill in it. They will use what we currently have that's in good shape, and then they will infill new fill as well.
I think one of the cool things about the base that we have right now is the fact that those of you guys that remember the old concrete bleachers, they basically chewed up the concrete and used it as some of the infill down the lower base. So that was kind of nostalgic. That's kind of a nostalgic thing. There was a big part of the community that did not want to get rid of those concrete bleachers, even though they were falling apart. But
that actually leads into one of my questions. I don't know if you know this at all, but it talks about removing and disposing of existing synthetic turf. Do you happen to know if there's any sort of recycling that they do with it? Or
I don't know that. I don't ask them their business on that, but I would assume that they do because they do a lot.
Our Richmond High School Athletic Director, Mr. Clay Bolzer, may have an answer.
The majority of, that turf surface, the grass will basically remain in our use. So if certain purchases go through, there are things that we can fill in for batting cages, and a lot of times facilities will oftentimes put in that carpet for inside strength and conditioning training and
Okay.
like areas that, because if we wanted to sell it to like a private gym, it could also be a fundraiser for the athletic department.
Okay.
But usually that carpet, because we paid for it, belongs to the school corporation, and we can utilize it however we see fit.
So really, we should get a deduction, right, for the disposal portion. We'll take care of it. We'll repurpose it. Okay, thank you. No, that makes me feel a little better. I'm already, as I stated last meeting, my preference would be grass, and this, but it sounds like cost effectively, this is our best option. So, yeah. All right, were there some other questions, comments?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask sort of the same thing along with how much or can we reuse or
They're gonna use
utilize
all of the
some.
fill that's currently there. They will
I
just
just have
add
that
to.
top, like, can
Yeah.
you reuse the top
We'll
somewhere?
reuse a lot of it. So,
Okay.
we have conversation all the time because we have random pieces of things that we'll just use for things. And so, I would think that we'll use it quite a bit for
Because they're enough
stuff.
for like a half field for soccer and football when they switch out and practice. Somewhere, I know they
maybe.
fight over the field sometimes and
Yeah. Maybe it'll just kind of depend on.
It's the 10-year-old product.
And you'd have to
No, I know.
grade
So-
that area too.
But I didn't know
The
if there
prep
was
is
sort of a
expensive.
Yeah, the prep is the rhythm.
practice fields.
If we do that, we'll
reutilize.
have to do all the grading and the filling,
Got it.
and so that would take additional resources to do. Now, could we? Probably.
Okay.
What a lot of colleges do with their repurposed turf is like batting cages. They'll reline all the batting cages because a lot of times those are just
Warning
dirt.
tracks on the baseball
Yeah.
field.
Okay.
That bullpen areas, and just because those are the locations, especially with baseball and softball, that take the most amount of maintenance. I'm sorry that I butted in on that.
We called you into the conversation.
So that's where obviously the reuse of it can be beneficial, and also oftentimes, so like obviously implementing strength and conditioning, and student athletes using a long stretch of turf carpet in, for instance, like the upstairs of the Tiernan Center, would be utilized for essentially the same kind of surface and starting ability that they use in practice.
Okay. I just, from an ecological perspective, that makes me feel better that we're purposing that and.
Yeah, I don't know that we have the alumni base, but the R and the end zones could be worth money to a interested alumni if someone wanted. I know colleges do that often.
That would be a real big, well,
And
I might buy it for my backyard.
but if I was building a big multi-use
Jamie said that's fine.
It's a big thing in Colorado. They
It
the
is.
turf
It is.
I did have a couple questions. The design, I presume maybe there'll be a redesign, and I don't know if the board will see those envisions at some point.
I
I'm
have
just going back.
a bunch of
I can actually, so, we actually had LWC as a part of the work that they're doing with us, design the fields for options, and, Dr. Wright has made his decision on what he prefers that to be, so yes, we have that ready.
Okay, well, I hope he shares that with the board then before we fully see
Yeah.
it on the field.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say on that point, the black soccer lines is confusing. As a 6-year soccer varsity parent, I think that they should consider going to maybe a yellow or just what you normally see at combo fields. I know we like the black as it takes away from, it doesn't distract as much from the football, but as a parent, it kind of, many opposing teams are confused, and I think that would be a valid thing.
Okay.
No, I'm so confused.
It's in a play.
I was so
I think it would be a valid thing to consider looking at.
Between
Any
the
further questions or
between the
comments?
two weights, do we know, for instance, what do other NCC schools have down on their fields? So they have
It's a mixed bag, I'll be honest. A lot of them just have your general regular grade, which is what we have right now. A lot, because it's so expensive. Your Franklin Townships, your Westfields, your schools with foundations or, heavy donor programs, they are going a little bit deeper than that. And so, it really, there's no one answer. Everybody is doing it a little differently because a lot of people have what's recommended in this recommendation. A lot of people have the current. So it really is truly like a mix. There's no right, like it just is whatever people can afford or whatever they prefer and can afford. So.
Is there any recommendation the athletic director has between the two?
I mean, the higher grade obviously is the preferred one. Muncie, now, obviously, I'm stating that knowing that there are budgetary concerns. Muncie and Anderson are the two newest turf. Anderson just did theirs 2 years ago. Muncie finished theirs this year in the second week of the season. Kokomo, well, theirs was, I think, 5 years ago. Everybody else was around the same time as Richmond. So their grades are going to be similar to what we have right now. Muncie has the highest level that they put in because they obviously have Ball State is doing their funding for their school.
All right, any further direction the board wants to give in regards to the, which type?
What was the
recommendation.
motion? What was the motion at this point, just so I don't lose track of where we're at?
The motion is the base bid plus alternate 2, which
Okay.
is the higher.
The upgrade, okay. I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify
And that includes the
where we're at.
All right, so any further clarification? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. All right, next up, policy review. We have a policy here, 8.01. And is there any questions or comments regarding the policy? Let's review.
I prefer the old policy.
Okay.
I don't like the reduction in time, and I think limiting comment to agenda items. I mean, while it's fine, I think just if I want to come to a school board meeting and speak at the podium, pretty much on any subject, I think as a citizen I should be allowed to do so. And so I think I know people do it, but so if it moves forward, I'll just vote no. That's my thoughts. I like the old policy better.
All right. And I guess we could.
Existing policy, I guess.
The existing, yeah. Okay,
As it is.
I guess we should probably have a motion first and then we can continue with questions and comments. So is there a motion to move from second reading to approval?
A motion that we approve 8.01 policy 0167.3 to final approval.
Okay, got a motion. Do you have a second? All right, no second? All right, so that means the motion dies and policy does not move forward. So any questions or comments at this point?
I would just like to say that moving it to 3 minutes, I'm okay. I would have been okay with that based upon that policy or that procedure does exist with a majority of school boards around not only the state of Indiana but around the country. Also, as we have been learning more and more recently, more and more corporations have gone away from having public commentary in some circumstances. I still think that it takes a lot of courage for an individual to come up on any topic and to come to that podium and to speak. You know, I'm neither here nor there because I've been, you know, around here long enough to understand that we do have the option, you know, if it is such a time where there are going to be 50 people and we have done this many times in the past, where we can reduce it from 5 to 3 minutes. And I still like that, you know, it is the board's prerogative, if necessary, to move it from 5 to 3. But, yeah, I don't want to restrict the public.
Just not wanting to restrict to 3. Okay.
I thought one thing that was interesting is the regional meeting we went to last week on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually looking at introducing state law to require school boards to have public commentary. It's not state law right now. There's several corporations that actually don't even have that. So we've been ahead of the curve for a long time on this. So I just thought that was interesting that they're actually having to put in legislation because some corporations don't even offer it.
Yep.
I was gonna say, I know, 5 or 3, I, to your point, especially me being new, I think we've been all talking about the same thing for so long. I don't know generally if when we have these action items, if the public really gets to speak on certain things, because I've seen other meetings where they can come and sort of talk about just whatever, or, concerned parent that does it, just something random. So I do like that aspect. I don't know how we configure that, how we address it, which meeting it goes in, but I would like to see that for them to feel more comfortable and not, come and try to give one comment and everyone else is talking about something else. So I don't know what the right answer is for that, but that would be my comment.
So you're saying you want to have the floor open for anyone to say anything at any of the meetings, like.
I don't necessarily know if it's any of these things, but like how, just trying to figure out how we structure it better. Because I do hear a lot, I see a lot, and, people don't want to come forward, because, like I said, we might be talking about budget strictly, and then, yes, that doesn't really fit in, but, how do we have a forum for the just sort of open, or
Yeah.
we do, or we don't,
Yeah.
I think you'd stated earlier, and I know you did, people can submit emails in regards to their concerns that can be addressed, through the executive committee or through the administration on certain topics, especially if they don't want to come here. I would offer this suggestion that, again, I'm in favor, let them come, let them speak and be heard. I don't know if we have that when someone signs in, if when they give their name, they also briefly state what topic they want to address or speak to. And the reason I bring that up is with the tenor of things that we have going on right now, there may be those who are speaking, 5 people speaking about one topic that we're dealing with. There may be 3 parents who come to deal with something completely unassociated with that, but something that may have happened on a school bus or something else, and there the twain shall meet. And therefore you have the opportunity to have those who are speaking on one certain topic to go, and then you have those who may be speaking on different topics to come afterwards, so that we have a chance to actually hear them. Because I'll be honest, I take a lot of notes during public commentary, but if somebody comes up there speaking about concern X, and somebody else comes up and they're speaking on X, and then 3 people down, now somebody's speaking on concern Y, we don't necessarily, they may not necessarily get the same ear or understanding.
So Cindy, that would involve kind of a consolidation on your part, like, okay, we've got these 3 people speaking
On our
on
sign up
this,
sheet,
or these
isn't there
people.
a thing about topic?
There is, yes.
Okay,
Um,
so maybe when we, call them up there, kinda organize them by topic.
Okay.
I'm looking at our current policy right now, and it does say 5 minutes per person. Maximum time for individual speaker is 5 minutes per person. I know in past has been our practice to, if there are a lot of speakers, we reduce it to 3. I think we need to have that in our policy to where we reserve the right to reduce it to 3 minutes depending on the number of speakers.
And if I can also just add a clarifying point, I know it was referenced that with this recommendation, or with this recommendation found within the policy, that patrons would be limited to speaking to just the agenda items. That is for our work sessions and or special meetings, not so much for the board meeting.
I mean, just the majority of people that come to speak they stay at the 5 minutes, or, I mean, so many of them don't even come close to the 5 minutes. To where, you know, I'm fine with not going to 3 minutes across the board, but I would put in there to reserve the right to where if we have a lot of people signed up to talk, that we reduce it down, just for the saving some time.
And what are other thoughts on that? I mean, we've done that in past practice, but it's
So
not
my concern
specified.
visiting this policy now kind of goes to the tenor of things going on that Aaron spoke of, that I don't have any trouble discussing adjusting or changing policy as we're reviewing the whole of our policies as we go through them with Neola now. But to pull this one out seems odd right now, and it just doesn't, to me, make sense as a timing to even.
I think maybe something that is overdue, going back to Brad's point, is if we can really make clarification and have included in an existing policy that we approve that states, you know, under certain circumstances, based upon the number of speakers that may be present, we will reduce the 5 minutes to 3 minutes, and that will be adhered to. And I certainly, you know, an aside, I want to thank, you know, all those who spoke tonight for, you know, it was great to have the clock up there, and they all stayed within there. I would also caution us, you know, if we do put this into a policy, that whoever the board president may be or who may be sitting at the chair, you know, during these times, we need to be consistent and with each person, regardless of the heartstrings that we may have in regards to a speaker, to say, okay, your time, you know, I'm sorry, your time is up. Oh, let's give them 5 more minutes. Let's not do that, because the next person, you know, will say, well, you just gave that person 5 minutes extra or 2 minutes extra or so, and I want that too. And then we open up a new Pandora's box.
Isn't having the policy say a maximum of 5 minutes, doesn't that imply that it may be less? I think once you start trying to spell out every scenario.
The current policy says the maximum time for individual speakers is 5 minutes per person.
You will never cover every scenario. And so by saying, I mean, if you tell me that's my maximum time, then that infers it could be less than 5 minutes. And whatever means the board president chooses to make that adjustment, I think, is privy to the board president. I mean, I don't think we need to spell out all these things, that because as soon as we do that, then there'll be a scenario that's different, and then we just open a can of worms possibly. I think our policy is flexible now. I think it's fair, and I'm happy with it.
Alright, other thoughts? Okay, so am I hearing a consensus of we're okay keeping the current policy, and adjusting if needed? Again, saying we do have the maximum, of 5 minutes, and we can adjust if needed. Are we Good with that?
Yeah, to Pete's point, with Neola coming down the line to revert most of the core of our policies to Neola, so that we're in standards across the state. I think it's a great time to review some things,
Alright.
not just this one.
Right, across the board. Okay, so, moving on to other discussion, yeah. Opening it up. Oh, is there something else we need to?
I just didn't know if there was a clarifying point of order. Was there a motion on the table?
There was a motion, it did not
The motion
get a
died
second.
without a second.
So it died, yes, sorry. I thought I stated that, maybe I didn't state it very clearly. Okay, so dead motion, dead policy.
It's unalive.
Reverting back to our
It's-
old policy.
That's unalive.
She'll get it right.
Okay. All right, so other discussion.
I have one question for December. Is it possible beforehand we can get a list of encumbrances that will be needed to move us? Because we'll have to approve those in December, correct?
No, I usually would present a resolution, basically do it the same as the appropriations. A blanket
Right.
resolution, then come in January to report what was encumbered. I do an encumbrance carry forward in January.
We do it in January?
Is what I have done historically.
Okay.
At one time, we had a computer program that would basically take the funds that had excess balances within an overall appropriation and use them and basically push a couple of buttons.
Yeah.
And that, does it still do it? Okay.
Yeah,
Because
they've
that's
encumbered.
we used to do it at the county.
This is my first, I was gonna
We've
say it's my
encumbered
first year
everything
on this
through the
board,
year
so.
end. So we'll just run an encumbrance report. However, some have been paid out, so I just don't want to do it too soon because we'll still have some that are paid out. And probably do an emergency claim as well in our December meeting, allow us to pay everything from December 6th through the end of the year to make sure we don't have any unpaid or delinquencies. So I usually will bring that in January as well.
Alright.
Thank you.
Anything from the ISBA fall meeting that anyone, John or Brad or Aaron, you wanna highlight?
I just, from what I understood from it is there's gonna be kind of a quiet session because it's a short session. And what our representative was telling us is they were actually trying to plan on being about a week early getting out. So very limited on what might be coming down the line, which is good because we had so much. We had 80 new laws last year.
Yeah, there were.
I mean, just a ton came down the pipe. So they're still tracking legislation coming down the pipe, but it should be much more light. And we did hear good news that one of the senators, I guess I shouldn't say this is good news, one of the senators that would always bring the bill forward to politicize a school board with a Republican and Democrat. And again, where I say it's not good news, I guess he actually passed away and he's not going to be bringing it forward. But the other people in the body, they have also stated the fact that they're not moving it forward also. But
We were happy to hear that,
the
school
legislation would
board-
not be coming,
yes,
but
exactly,
we were saddened to
not
hear
being
that the
partisan.
representative passed. And
Yes.
I said that horribly. And
Yeah, you butchered it.
I butchered it.
The family will be calling you later.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were saddened to hear the.
Alright, so maybe John or Aaron, something else to add?
Even though this is going to be a short session that comes up, I think it's very, very necessary that we pay attention to those briefs that have come out on court cases, with, appeals and things that have gone through the Supreme Court, because they do indirectly affect us and fail, if we were to fail to pay attention to those and really read those and maybe pass those on and stay ahead of them with our administration, it could end up at our feet. And I don't want to be unprepared, but I mean, if anybody else from the administration or if you, Dr. Wright, has it, and you provide some of those things to the rest of your cabinet, and then we can do it with the rest of the board as well, because that's one of the important things that I get when I go to the regionals, and that are those court rulings.
And we had several Indiana court rulings that have made it to the national level for the Supreme Court, so it was kind of interesting to see all that.
And we loved having Mrs. Bolster and Dr. Wright join us for that. Yeah.
And we made it there safely, and we got home safely.
Yes, we did. Thank you for driving.
That we did.
One thing that they
No
did
deer were
mention.
killed.
No, they were asking about, if any of us were the redevelopment committee
Oh, yes.
members, and I said no. However, Pete is, so I didn't know if you had any recent updates for us.
Yeah, so the redevelopment commission met last week. By the way, it is really, really hard to be part of a board like that or commission and only being able to yell and scream instead of vote.
Yeah.
So
Right man for the job.
I'm sure that's hard for you.
they voted to. So 2 meetings ago, they set aside a new redevelopment district in the downtown TIF district, which is the Elder Bearman property. And then last week they voted to move forward with the funding that will be coming from redevelopment. So I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but approximately $2.5 million will be bonded and be paid by the revenue from that new redevelopment district, which is the Elder Bearman. And there will be approximately $4.5 million paid toward the project from the overall downtown TIF district. Part of that is a cash payment to the developer. The other is payments toward a loan that's going to be held by the Wayne County Foundation. I was nice enough to point out to the commission that the state average of school proceeds from property tax is about 43% across the state. So when they have a redevelopment district downtown that currently has a revenue of $2.4 million, they're pulling approximately $1 million a year away from the schools as the school system being a foundational piece of the economic development puzzle. And of new dollars that will be in the Elder Bearman specific area will be an annual about $130,000 of unrealized revenue to the school system. So
Thank you for
the
supporting our interests.
my comments were received as thank you for your thoughts, Peter.
And you know, in that same vein, it was heard the other day, and we've known this for years. There's a lot of angst throughout the state in regards to the fact that representatives from school corporations who sit in these committees are non-voting members, and some aren't even permitted to participate unless they are approved of prior to, regardless of what the agenda may be. And that's a really sad thing. But, when it was mentioned last Thursday, you could hear that,
Thanks for speaking out on our
So, yes.
All right.
So I think it would be in our best interest as we look at projects over the next year, whether it's turf projects or other facility projects or potential additions or changes in our trades program, trade programming, that we do a larger ask to the redevelopment commission. We can sit around the table and figure out what that looks like. I mean, currently they're generously giving us $50,000 a year from redevelopment, and I think anything under $250,000 is a year would be
more
on par
Yes.
and reasonable, and
Okay.
still a heck of a deal for the city.
All right. Duly noted. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Kristen and I got to go to Westview, and we had all heard at the school board about Lester Lamanek and, you know, how they had decorated, and it is a beautiful sea of peacocks and bumblebees and blue. I mean, it's really fun. In fact, I'm like, don't take any of it down. Like, I think it just needs to stay on permanent. Yeah. Anyway, so that was really fun, and they are still just all of the kids that we ran into were like, so what'd you think of Lester? And they were just very impressed and inspired and motivated, and so it's just been fun to see. And there's been professional development then, I guess, that's come from that and ongoing, and so. You're overseeing some of that, but yeah, so excited to get to see that in person. So, we had our board retreat. Kim hosted. Thank you. So, anything from the board retreat to catch people up on that?
I mean, it was great. That's my first retreat. Getting to meet Dr. Rice. He's amazing, very helpful, so knowledgeable. You know, I think, you know, moving forward and kind of working on the timeline for a strategic plan was great. I think we sort of figured out our next steps and what we need to do, and so yeah, I'm excited for that whole process.
Yeah, definitely. Brad, anything to add? Yeah. So we had, and you guys should have all received the minutes from that, as far as from the board retreat. But the idea being, that the current strategic plan is, more than 3 years old. Dr. Wright was not with us when we put that together. Pete was not with us, Kim was not with us, Kristen was not with us. So, wanting to definitely make that a collaborative effort, and not just with the board members, but with our admin and with the community. Just some of that would be involving some town hall meetings, some focus groups, surveys, getting people involved and hearing from our constituents, basically. So, kind of like what, you know, just kind of preliminary things, trying to put that together and trying to formulate what could this look like and what direction do we want to head. So any questions about that or any comments? All right. Any other? Oh, go ahead.
I got to touch Walmart. Mr. Fowler said I got to attend the Red Devil Players Pure Imagination.
Oh yeah.
On Friday night and again on Sunday's matinee. It was really unique. It was a concoction of about 10 or 11 different plays that we all know. So it was a musical. There were songs from Peter Pan. There were songs from Annie. There were, you know, it was something I'd never really seen before. It was kind of really neat. So we gotta give a lot of props to Mrs. Bartlemy for putting that together. It was pretty cool. It had an audience participation song. I got called out Friday night from the actors. Mrs. Wolpe got called out Saturday night, and Mrs. Bartlemy herself got pulled out Sunday. So it was kind of neat to see the kids had a great time doing it. So I was really proud to see them.
Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, we'll move on to preview of upcoming meetings and events. Dr. Ray.
President Stoltz, trustees, our next scheduled board meeting will be December 6th, Wednesday, December 6th at 5:30, right here in the boardroom. On that day, we will continue to highlight the amazing things that are occurring in RCS, as well as continue to address the work that we have before us. And if I can just clarify during the Human Resources Report and Addendum, as we have done in past practice, I know that we had a few administrators in the audience this evening, but Stephanie Huber, who formerly was a guidance counselor there at RHS, has succeeded Mrs. Laura Brazel as the new assistant principal there at RHS. And so we definitely want to extend a congratulatory remark to Mrs. Hoover. I know that she, having been in that RHS ilk for some time, has been able to transition rather smoothly. And I know Mrs. Whoopi is extremely excited, and the team, that Ms. Hoover is moving to the administrative role.
Great. All right, adjournment and bell ring.
Yes, I want to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our communications and marketing coordinator, rejoin us for a final time this evening to share a warm bell ringer with us.
Just wanted to share just a couple upcoming events. Concert season is coming up, so winter always has nice music. Star Elementary School will be having a concert November 29th. Vale Elementary School having a concert November 30th. And then it wouldn't be amiss, but Civic Hall is also doing a production on December 2nd. It's called Away in the Basement. So that's another show that's coming up. And then also December 5th, the orchestra is having a concert. So that's all before our next board meeting. And then there's more concerts after our next board meeting. So, and then I just wanted to also congratulate Richmond High School teacher Katie Rising. She recently received an award through Girls Inc. as a bold honoree, just celebrating her at a November 7th event that they had at Girls Inc. Just wanted to congratulate her as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazelbaker.
All right, anything else? All right, that concludes our meeting. Thank you.